I thought I was probably going to lose my job related to AI.
My guest today, he spent over 2 decades leading companies like Adobe, Domo, Pluralsight, where he helped take the company public. Under his leadership, a third of Egnyte's revenue now comes from AI, serving 23,000 customers globally. Please welcome to the show, Stan Hansen.
Everybody else was selling these grandiose visions. And I would say that we did not produce anything that was attractive or sexy or whatever. I got to be honest, we were not selling any AI. A large customer came back and said, hey, we bought into a single ecosystem and it has been a disaster. We spent a lot of money and we haven't delivered anything. And sometimes they will present data that they shouldn't be looking at. This could be compensation data. It could be strategic data. It could be HR data. That's probably the number one risk out there is people getting access and taking data that belongs to the company, not to an individual taking and moving that with them to another company. Over a third of our dollars that we sell today in new business and new opportunities are actually coming from Egnyte AI solutions. It's a lot more than we thought it was going to be.
If you look at companies like NVIDIA, OpenAI, Anthropic, they've done a terrible job at building trust with the final users of AI, right?
You'll see a reduction in force, and then they will start hiring again immediately.
People are not going to be replaced with AI, but rather with people who can do 3 times more because they get accustomed to using the AI tools.
I've probably spent 400 or 500 hours now, back and forth with these models, building stuff for my personal self and some of the family things. Now you can actually have a seat at the table every day. Every day there is a startup company starting within a company. The art of the possible is now possible.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of The AI Floor. My guest today is the Chief Operating Officer at Egnyte, where he oversees revenue, marketing, customer success, operations, and corporate development. He spent over 2 decades leading companies like Adobe, Domo, Pluralsight, where he helped take the company public, and Wells Fargo, when he ran organizations of over 1,000 people. Under his leadership, a third of Egnyte's revenue now comes from AI, serving 23,000 customers globally. Please welcome to the show, Stan Hansen.
Hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate it, Shamil. It's great to be here and appreciate the opportunity to be on the pod here. So excited.
Likewise, super excited. Can we start by sharing with our listeners who are new to Egnyte, who are new to Stan, some of your path and the work that you do?
Yeah, look, I guess I've probably taken kind of a creative path to get to this role. I started with a degree in finance and ended up taking a job with Sprint. In fact, it was called Sprint PCS. This was a long time ago, but this is before that. There used to be 2 wireless carriers, AT&T and Verizon. That was it. And they came out with a C and D block at 1800 megahertz. So the others were 850 megahertz. But anyway, started on the finance team, and through a crazy set of circumstances, I ended up as the project manager building out the first 144 wireless sites here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So it was an awesome experience. We were one of 4 markets that launched on time, and we were the only market that launched on within our budget. So it was kind of
That's a rarity.
Yeah,
usually 2 times budget, 2 times the time, the standard rule.
That's exactly right. I had a great team that I worked with, and I think what was most interesting about that is that I ended up in this position because the 2 other people that were supposed to come in and take the position didn't end up coming to Salt Lake City. So I went in as the interim person, and then after several months, we were on such a short timeline that they said, hey, why don't you just go ahead and run it and go with it? And I think the team that I worked with was really kind to me because I did not have very much project management experience. I was reading. In fact, I bought a project management for dummies book. We didn't have LLMs back then, so I couldn't just search everything and put it together. It was an awesome experience, worked with a great team. And that just opened up a lot of doors for me. Moved from that role after, a couple of years there, moved to head of strategic planning and competitive analysis for the market. And then later ended up at CBS Viacom in a sales role for a couple of years, 2-3 years there. And then my time at Sprint, that's how I ended up at Wells Fargo. One of the people that I worked with at Wells Fargo called me and said, hey, look, we're going through this thing called Y2K. man, we're in a crunch and we need project managers that can go get things done. I thought of you, would you like to come, work with us and solve some of the problems that we've got getting these, applications remediated and ready for Y2K. So that was my journey. I started there, and after a year or two in that role, ended up working as a chief of staff for a guy that ran kind of the customer service delivery side, the banker connection side of Wells Fargo. And it was a good sized organization. And then, later started shifting a little bit out of the procedural side, more into the technology arm of that, and working with a group called Technology Connection, that did kind of help desk different things. And then we moved into roles-based access and controls, some of the merger and acquisition work on the technology side. When we'd go out and acquire a bank, we do a lot of the sizing work, a lot of telephony work. And that purview, expanded and ended up with a pretty good sized group there, and just a really awesome experience at Wells Fargo. And was there about 13 years and went through one of the largest financial mergers of all time, which was the Wells-Wachovia merger. I spent a lot of time out in North Carolina. And, later after traveling, my kids were coming up, wanted to spend less time on the road, stay back home. So took a job with Adobe. And that's where I kind of got into the technology and the sales side, leveraging some of the work I had done in procurement and technology, and then coming over to sales. So that was kind of the motion of how I got back in, and just started with a SDR team and then the inside sales, and made a couple of moves, worked with some really, really great people at Adobe, great time there, moved to Domo, which was a kind of up and coming company. But I wouldn't say it was a break off, but Josh James, the founder of Omniture that had sold his company to Adobe, I actually started a new company called Domo and worked with him down there for a few years. And similar type of work into that area. But at the time I made the break at Domo, I went to a company called Pluralsight. And it was a pretty small company at the time. And they were making the switch from a B2C to a B2B company. And we had a really small B2B sales small organization, and not a lot of revenue coming through there. But there was just a tremendous opportunity to go grow that business. And so came in and was leading the enterprise sales team, a new business team. And that kind of morphed, and after a couple of different changes, ended up running the commercial business, which started small with 7 people. And we grew that team significantly to several hundred million in revenue a year, a large organization. And then ultimately, worked into a role that I had, all of sales, enterprise, SMB, a commercial mid-market, and went through it's just an incredible run there. Really, we started with, under $100 million in revenue in my last year. In our team, we did $468 million in revenue. That was over the course of about 5 or 6 years. So we really we saw an explosion there. The market was ripe for it. It was a good move. And similar, when we left, we went through we took the company public, and then later the company ended up going private. And, it was a good time for me to make a switch. I took about 6 months I'd let the folks know at Pluralsight I was going to be looking for a different opportunity. Took about 6 months in that, actually about 7 months from the time I notified to the time that I left, 7 months and a few days, but came to Egnyte. And, similar story here. We were just about just over $100 million in revenue. We're now in the 370 range and growing at about 20%. Little over 20% with a nice 20+% EBITDA margin. So the company's really kind of made a turn there, and we continue to do very well in a very dynamic market. I would say lots of changes.
Yeah,
and it's been a good ride so far. So little history on me there.
And what I like most is you have such a good wealth of experience from all different parts of companies. So when it comes to being a good chief operating officer in the age of AI, you need to know the internal processes of different departments, what they consist of, what are the kind of intrinsic, extrinsic motivations at different levels, what are the processes, how are they wired together, in order to be able to kind of visualize this in your mind, to then be able to work with it and see what can we automate, like improve. And for the listeners that don't know, can you do like a short maybe sales pitch for Egnyte?
Yeah, look, Egnyte is, first of all, it's an incredible product. And we do a lot of data management. A lot of smart content management is probably the best way of saying it. Egnyte is a data infrastructure that focuses on data security, data compliance, data collaboration, and data governance. A lot of different areas that companies struggle with. So when you think of the importance of data, unstructured data specifically, it's how do you extract the value out of your unstructured data in the organization, which is really the crown jewel. And, and we've been very, very, very effective in terms of helping companies in various industries, extract the value out of that data and go and apply it to get actual, return on their investment. And again, a lot of that has to do with collaboration, the abilities that we have to audit and track who's accessed the data, the collaboration points where you have multiple people coming in on the same document in real time, collaborating and working those into workflows to drive that efficiency throughout the organization.
And I think that's something that a lot of companies can use, because like even within my company, I always have people coming up from non-development teams. And they're like, okay, those guys have like GitHub to manage all of their files and everything. We don't want to use technological kind of side. What can we use to kind of drive the collaboration on the like data and documents for other departments? And it looks like Egnyte could be that place for a lot of companies too.
Yeah, I'll add one thing. We take a really interesting approach to ownership of the data. So a lot of companies, it's, and a lot of the tools that are out there, their premise is whoever creates the document is the owner of that data. And Egnyte works a little bit different. It works more like a file server where you create folders, collaboration folders that people work on, and the company owns that folder. So you might be a contributor to that, but what happens is that you're not picking up and moving data if someone moves positions or someone leaves the company. That data is there. The team's collaborating around that data all the time. And, you can plug people in and take them out, but it's really kind of the company owned data that controls who has access and controls to that, as opposed to the creator of a document. And it's a subtle but fundamental difference that is really important to kind of the continuity of people coming in and changing roles. It's been super effective for us and our customers. Like it's part of the secret sauce of what makes us great.
And over the last 2 years, I think we've seen some of the most complex parts of AI technology start to make sense, and people have started to understanding like what it is, what it isn't. Like the whole crazy scare of like 2022-3 is like, oh my God, what's this technology is going to do, what it is. It's kind of subsided. And now we're in a position to kind of analyze, okay, what do we do with this new alien discovered technology that has hit us? What was your experience kind of researching that, experiencing it, and trying to think like, how is this going to change the way we do business?
Yeah. It's funny, and I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but I remember seeing the cover of a Time magazine. It had a big cable. This is back in the 80s. And it was like, the internet is coming or something like that. I can't remember. But, and it does feel like one of those moments, where a big major change is coming. And I would say that I don't know that we fully understand it, but you can feel it's a tidal wave and it's coming. Like in my mind, even what we've seen over the last 18 to 24 months, the changes that have taken place and what's happening, it is going to be revolutionary. You can see it. You can see, the applications that are out there. I think we're still right at the very beginning of a very long journey and a long transformation. But it is making people more effective. It is making them more efficient. I look at myself and some of the tools that I use just to drive in my everyday work. Yeah, it's changed the way I work completely over the last even 6 months. What's happened in the last 6 months has been phenomenal for me.
Yeah.
It's been really helpful for me. And it's a tool that can make me more efficient and better. And, the question is, how are we going to be able to do that at scale in complex processes? And I think that's kind of the next evolution of how do we work this into, workflows? And then, how do we move into that agentic piece? And then, beyond that, I guess would be the piece. I don't know if I answered your question there, but that's kind of how I see it, is that you see an evolution coming without a doubt. Yeah.
And when we look at a company, right, how do we know that it's ready for AI adoption? Like Egnyte being right there at the layer where everybody struggles, the data.
Yeah.
Like, how do you prepare the data? How do you take ownership, make it reliable, make it usable? What does it take for a company in the current day and age to kind of build a foundation?
Yeah. Look, I'm fortunate in my role. I get to get out and I'm talking to customers all the time, and I'm seeing this firsthand, real time. Like, what are the issues that come around companies preparing for AI specifically? Like, how do we get ready for that? And a lot of people have jumped in really quickly, and a lot of people have gotten burned on that because oftentimes people are leveraging models or systems. Their data is not secure. They're accessing data that they shouldn't have, purview to, and it has caused a lot of issues out of the gate. And that's made a lot of companies actually tap the brakes and say, hey, wait a minute, like, we are not ready for this, or we only want a very small subset of people, or we only want really defined tasks. So they're not able to unlock the power of what's available today. I will say, one of the things that we've learned, and look, whether you use Egnyte or something else, what we are really good at is defining access controls and permissions to different data structure. So that's an area that it's really easy to facilitate within Egnyte. And so people do that. They build their data infrastructure in a way that you structure data in a way in your system, in folders and files, that with controls on who has access to that. And Egnyte layers over the top. So when you bring in these other models, you can deploy the access and controls layers of Egnyte to go get that data. And so what happens is, when you're doing a query or you're interrogating data sets or whatever, only people are seeing the actual data that they would have access to. And that is usually the first step that companies need to take. That's where they get into trouble, because oftentimes people, if you don't have a structured data set, you're putting data all over. And so when you allow someone access to go interrogate that data, they can find it really quickly. That's one thing these LLMs are really good at. And sometimes they will present data that they shouldn't be looking at. And this could be compensation data. It could be strategic data. It could be, merger and acquisition data. It could all sorts of different. It could be HR data. It could be, there's a lot of data that we see that gets put in the wrong place because there isn't, an actual structure that companies are working with, or it's not easy to get that or identify it and get that data in the right place. And so we help a lot of companies with that step. And I would say that is step one. Step one is, how do you get your data in a way? How do you get it structured in a way that it's actually ready for AI interrogation at scale? And that's one area that we focus on. We do a lot of that with our tool, but we also have a lot of partners that come in and do specific work with Egnyte. They use Egnyte as their tool to help people go clean up, corporate data systems.
Yeah.
So
Nice. And I feel that, I think everybody who's trying to be on the cutting edge of technology, they are faced with this same thing every single time. It's like, who can control the data? Okay, if you run a Zoom call and you have an AI assistant and 3 people didn't show up, and you're like, are they going to get the transcript? Are they not? And it's just one example of just so many ways in which you interact with a lot of data. And then where is it going to show up? Are the AI agents that we use internally are going to have access to that data too? So I guess, what would be the role that you see evolving within these companies to kind of control the confidentiality, security, compliance for the companies? Is it one of the existing roles, or is it just something completely new that's going to emerge?
Yeah, good question. I mean, different companies are handling it different ways, but for sure, it's a data security, it's a data access and controls issue. And so, oftentimes it's either going to come under the purview of a CISO or, a CIO in that frame, depending on how they're structured. But that is a primary risk and a primary concern. And, one of the areas where you see a lot of data leakage or even a data breach comes from your internal employee base. And so
Mhm.
getting that right is really, really important. Like that's probably the number one risk out there is people
Yeah.
getting access and taking data that belongs to the company, not to an individual taking and moving that with them to another company or using it in some nefarious way. So that's a serious problem. And, I think that's one of the areas that we have focused on over the last several decades, well, a couple decades, is how do we identify that? How do we help stop that? How do we know when it is happening? What does that look like from different patterns and different things, and we can help people with that as they're trying to figure out how do we control the data and really keep the value that they've developed over years of curating their process and their intellectual property, and how do we keep that safe and secure and in the hands of the right people.
And internally at Ignite, do you oftentimes have employees that come to you as like, Stan, I've vibe coded this kind of solution that can help us do our work quicker? How do we get it past compliance, legal? Is this something that the company is okay with? Or because we know with current tools, like rapid prototyping is getting easier and easier. Do you get kind of those situations?
All the time. Yeah, all the time. So look, I think we, Ignite as a company, we put out some tools out there. We have Gemini. So Gemini is one tool that we have. We have Claude for, I'd say, a large subset of the company. Those are kind of two different tools. And then we've got other people, other groups that are using other tools like ChatGPT and others on the enterprise versions of that. And basically, we have all the major LLMs at some place being tested or worked on at Ignite. And there's two different things for that. One is, how do you use that in conjunction with Ignite? And that's probably something that we could spend a little bit of time on is kind of the approach that we've taken with these LLMs and how we see the future. So that's one. But to answer your question, in terms of we're pushing our employees to look at what they're doing on a day-to-day basis and say, how can we use these LLMs to speed up this repetitive work that's out there? And that's kind of what I would say a step one, or maybe even a step two, data preparation, step one, maybe. But, what are some of these mundane tasks that the LLMs are really, really good at? And how do we get them to start doing that work immediately? And, it's hard for one person or one team to go in and do that for an entire company. And so what we're trying to do is push that out to the individuals at Ignite, the teams and team leaders with a framework that says, hey, this is what we expect. Here's how you should be using these tools. This is what you should be looking at. And then as they start to surface, we start talking about it. Does this fit within the model? Is this something we want to do? Should we pursue and put some time here? And should we standardize this and start rolling it out broader in the organization? And that's the approach that we've taken. You mentioned rapid prototyping. I believe that is the key. And that's actually been one of the keys that we have had with our customer base as we've gone out and sold Ignite and AI solutions. Over a third of our dollars that we sell today in new business and new opportunities are actually coming from Ignite AI solutions or in conjunction with AI solutions, which is
Tell
a
us
lot.
about this.
Yeah, it's a lot more than we thought it was going to be. And we kind of started on a journey, and maybe that's the better place to talk because, I'd say probably 18 months ago, I thought I was probably going to lose my job. So, related to AI, and this, I don't know whether anybody else had experienced this, but, we had kind of a rev one of our AI solutions that were out there. And I would say that they were very immature. We were scratching our heads like everybody else and saying, okay, how can we bring this into Ignite? How do we make it valuable? And we took an approach that we didn't want to overcommit or overpromise. And we had an AI solution, we had a package, we went out and we were basically selling what we could do. And what we realized is that, everybody else was selling something way beyond anything that we could. And we were, we've been in the AI business for over a decade. We have got extensive experience with machine learning, that we like in-depth knowledge on the AI side. I feel as a company, we're very AI advanced, but people were selling, these grandiose visions. And I would say that we did not produce anything that was, attractive or sexy or whatever. People are like, oh yeah, hey, that's great. But over here, they're going to transform everything in our business and they're going to do it in the next 12 months, or whatever. So we didn't sell a lot. I got to be honest. I mean, it was like we were not selling any AI, and we could see that companies were progressing and selling a lot of AI solutions. And at one point, there was a serious question like, hey, you've jacked up the strategy here. Like, what are you thinking? We're not doing anything. And I'd say we're about 6 months into that, and it was getting tense. And finally, we had our first customer that we had walked, basically, that they had picked another solution. They came back and they're like, hey, look, we went down this
We're
other
sorry.
path, and it was a good sized customer. It wasn't, we were selling AI, but it was in small pieces. And actually, we were having success, but just not success at scale. But this, large customer came back and said, hey, we want to sit down and revisit. We're revisiting all the vendors that we worked with before. We made a choice. We bought into a single ecosystem, and it has been a disaster. We spent a lot of money, and we haven't delivered anything, and we need help here. And the model that we had decided on is, look, let's go give quick wins for our customers. Let's not promise the world. Let's just focus on some of these, clear tasks that are out there that they need help with. And let's go deploy something so they can build confidence with their executive teams and their boards to say, hey, we want to spend more on AI because we can get results that are actually producing a return on investment in our company. Honestly, I think if the companies wouldn't have recognized that, I don't know, 3 or 4 months later, maybe I'd be working at a different company. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it was tense. I mean, the question was, hey, we should have developed a different strategy, but that flipped very quickly. We saw that first customer come back, and shortly after, there were several other customers that were coming back and saying, hey, we're not having success with the AI solutions that we purchased. These commitments were made, and there's no way we're going to hit them. We haven't even gotten anything off the launch pad. So that's what we did. We came in and said, let's focus on small, quick wins. Let's help these companies build confidence with their boards and show that you can actually get a return on investment quickly. And that's been a winning model. We're definitely not straying from that anymore. Like that is core to who we are. In fact, under promise, over deliver is a way better strategy than over promise and under deliver. And it's accelerated our business in this space materially.
And I don't know how to put it, but I feel like it takes balls to take that stance, because you look at the industry, everything, like all of these startups, all of the money going to companies, all companies are getting funded. Over-promising, nobody knows what are they delivering. A lot of AI, trillions tokens used. Look at us, we're so cool. And for a company to be like, well, now we have to compete. And you don't know about like how was their churn rate, how long are the customers staying, how satisfied are they with the solution. You just see everybody over-promising on the AI.
Yeah. Here's over time, and I've seen this play out over and over and over again with many different companies that I've worked with, that I bought software from.
Yeah.
And the over-promise, under-deliver strategy is short-term. The only chance you have to win on that is if you overpromise and then something miraculous happens, and then the market changes and you get lucky, and then you're able to build whatever you promised and it comes out and works out. But that's like 1 in 100 or 1 in 1,000. I don't know. It's not very often. But that approach, the hardest part about that is that usually when you go in and you sell to a company, you're selling to a champion. And that champion is like, hey, I'm all in on you guys. I want to partner with you, and I'm trusting you to help me solve these issues that we've identified in either a proof of concept or proof of solution. And like, I believe you can help us achieve our goals as a company. And I'm going to put my reputation and my career on the line, and buy your software. And, I'm buying the partnership or the relationship for you to help us go solve these issues and drive value in the company. If you overpromise and underdeliver, you burned your most ardent supporters. You burned your most passionate people that are all in. And so it is crushing. And your champions that are out there, you cannot take that risk because they will never back you again, ever. The majority of our leads, the majority of sales that we get are from people that we worked with at one company. They pick up and they move to another company, and they're like, on Ignite. And so, from a marketing standpoint, that approach has been lights out. I mean, that's our number one. And our second lead source, greatest lead source, comes from someone that calls somebody that says, hey, how are you solving this problem? And they're like, oh, yeah, we use Ignite. They've been great. They come in, they helped us get this set up. We were able to achieve, a deployment, an enterprise rollout for the whole company within, a month or two, sometimes weeks or days, depending on the size of the company. And it's been a really good experience. And that immediately catches the attention of some prospect out there. Like, yeah, who should we talk to over there? They make the invite, or the introduction is the word I was looking for. They make the introduction, and then we're able to go in and see if we're a good fit. And if we're not a good fit, we'll just tell them, hey, not a good fit on this one, because we also don't want to burn our champion. If we're not the right fit, just tell them. And, our guys will still refer customers to us because they know we're not going to, go sell something that doesn't work anyway.
Candor and integrity.
Yeah.
Basically, I think long-term.
It's the long-term strategy. And for us, it continues to allow us to accelerate our growth. In a market right now, when the majority of companies are really struggling, growth rates are coming down. I am just so thankful that, our customers and are the ones that are helping us propel our business. And our business is actually accelerating. So, we were at 20%, then 21, 20 and a half, 21 and a half, 22%. But an extra percent of growth it's tough right now in this market. I think anybody in SaaS will tell you, hey, if you're at that level and you're accelerating growth, that feels pretty good. So, and we're proud about that. Yeah.
And before I ask about the rise of LLM and how you've utilized it, I wanted to come back to the point of when people come with suggestions about what can be improved. Speaking to other leaders, what I found out is there is a lot of resistance. If you look at companies like NVIDIA, OpenAI, Anthropic, they've done a terrible job at building trust with the final users of AI, right? AI, in order to drive the prices for their shares, they're like, AI is going to destroy everything. You're not going to need employees. The AI is going to do all of the job. It's superpower technology. And what it's done is just created a narrative where, if you are the person that's trying to use AI to improve the processes, basically you're probably trying to get everyone out of their jobs. So it's why should we be the champions and supporters of AI technology within? How do you face that kind of challenge and can help people understand that it's a tool to augment the work, to help you remove the boring parts, instead of just being oh no, we're not going to touch that because, well, if we do, we're going to be out of the job potentially, because that's what OpenAI says.
Yeah. So the first thing that we do, I look at the number of improvements that we need to make in our company. And I wish I could say it was 1, 2, 3, something like that. But I mean, it's hundreds or thousands of tasks long. I mean, it feels enormous. And, the biggest challenge that we have as a company is prioritizing the most important stuff that we want to optimize, fix, expand, grow at the top of that list, and putting the right resources on that stuff, so, or, I shouldn't even say or, it's really an and, what we're seeing with AI, there's no shortage of work. At this moment, and in the foreseeable future for Ignite, and I'll just speak for us, we're about 1,300, 1,400 employees, somewhere in that range. If money was no object, we'd go hire another 1,000 people or whatever. I mean, or more, because there's just so many things to go do. What I'm seeing and what I'm trying to coach our people on, and even my own family, I've got 4 daughters and a son, and they're all between the ages of 20 and 30 years old. I'm saying, you have got to engage with these tools. So, all my kids have a Claude, and they all use, OpenAI. And we talk about, what are you doing to implement those tools to make yourself more productive and make your life better? And, we go through that. But that's kind of a different discussion. Let me go back to your question on employees. In my mind, it's getting people comfortable. And I think the only way that they truly get comfortable is if they engage and start using these tools. That's it. Because you can see that it's not job elimination. And I agree with you. Even some of these companies that are reducing, force, and there's a lot of them that are coming out and saying, hey, because of AI, we're going to reduce force. Okay, that's good. That, maybe they can do that, but they don't really need to do that. They can reposition those people into other areas, and they will. Yeah. You'll see a reduction in force, and then they will start hiring again immediately. And the reason why they'll start hiring is because they might need to change where those people are, might need to optimize because they've cut out some mundane task that can be done with an LLM or an agent. And that's what, I would expect as well. But at our company, it's not like we are looking at, okay, we're going to deploy AI. I mean, we have an AI solution. It's a big part of our product, and we incorporate these other models and how it comes together with Egnyte. But in our case, all we're doing is getting more work done quicker and more effectively and efficient. And for the foreseeable future, I'm not seeing a reduction, mass layoff or reduction in staff, because there's a lot. We're a growing company. We're healthy.
Yeah.
As we ramp that up, it's going to drive more revenue. It's going to drive more profitability for the company. And that's exciting for me. It opens up growth opportunities for our employees. And that's probably one of the most important things. It's not, I don't see a shrinkage. I see an actual expansion, and expansion into higher quality, more complex work that is augmented by these AI solutions.
And I think that's specifically why you've mentioned the kids and how you're ensuring that they know the technology, because it seems like in the future, people are not going to be replaced with AI, but rather with people who can do 3 times more because they get accustomed to using the AI tools. And the funny thing is, like, everybody expects it, like, oh, it's going to be here, you're going to use the tools, you're going to work less. Do you ever feel like when you have so many AI tools, that you work less, or do you work more?
That's a good question. I would say I work less on mundane tasks. Mm-hmm. I'm working more on more strategic, more visionary, more complex tasks. And again, I would say my belief is the people that are going to really change the value of who they are and what they bring to any organization or to themselves or to their family or whatever are going to be these people that know how to engage with these models. And I'll say these models because it's not just going to be LLMs. There's going to be SLMs. There's going to be other, very specific models that we also think are going to be used in conjunction with the LLMs that are going to drive the most amount of value. There's a specific set of skills that I'm seeing, and I can talk about me personally, what I've seen, because I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I feel like I'm evolving with these tools as well. But people that can go in and converse with the LLMs and frame out what they're trying to accomplish or what they're trying to solve, and then converse with an LLM to kind of build into what's the best way to attack that problem, and then ultimately build an agent to go tackle that, or a prompt, or whatever that might look like for them. Prompt at kind of level 1, then agent, and multi-agent are the people that are going to be successful. So that's one key skill of how do you engage? Like, what does that look like? And in the short term that I've been doing this, in the beginning, I would tell them exactly what I wanted. I would come in, I would ask a hey, I want an answer to this question, or this is how I want you to solve this problem. This is how I want you to help me write this memo. But now, I'm thinking more holistically to say, hey, here's what I'm trying to accomplish. What should I consider? Mm-hmm. Like when I'm tackling this task, like, how would you come at this problem? What are 3 or 4 different, strategic ways of coming at this problem? And then I can take that information and kind of learn, and then I can go to the next level and the next level and the next level. And I'm getting much higher quality. I'm getting better, more strategic solutions, and higher, it's really higher value output. I'm not just solving one small task now. Now I'm actually moving into multiple complex tasks, and that's been helpful. So that's one. The second skill that I think is going to be really, really important is also someone that I would call like a BPA, or a business process analyst. Mm. And this would be someone that can come in and look at the workflow of an individual, or look at the workflow or the process or whatever, and define that really well, and define that clearly, and then work with one of these models to go build an agent to go do that work. And it's hard to get that right. That
Yeah.
sometimes requires multiple versions, and because you're like, oh, hey, this is working really well, but I'm getting bad information, or it's hallucinating over here, or we've got the wrong people accessing this data or whatever. And so it's kind of fine tuning that process. But that is another skill that I believe is going to be highly valuable over the next, at least 4 or 5 years. And there will be some evolution of that in the future. But those people are highly valuable. The people that can come in today and look at what we're doing, put that into a defined process, because then you can automate that process.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. So those are 2 skills that, if there's someone that's trying to figure out, hey, how do I survive in this world? Those are 2 skills I'm seeing today for sure that are high value.
Yeah, and I'm hearing almost similar things I've been talking to a lot of heads of procurement departments that have already automated a lot of the processes within. And they always say, like, the first step is to understand all of the processes, to map them out, to then be able to see, like, it's really hard to kind of give an oversight to agentic AI if you don't know which parts of like other processes are interact, like what is going to be the effect on that thing or the other thing, what are the problems. And when it comes to, like, you have an idea, like, okay, we have a procurement department, let's automate this.
Yeah.
The software costs are going down, and you're thinking, okay, we have a lot of developers, shall we develop something from within, or shall we just buy something that's out there that somebody else is building?
Yeah.
How do you tackle those kind of decisions?
And that is a tough one. My personal opinion on this is anytime that you're building software, you've got to be careful, because the market, we work with a lot of really, really smart customers, and a lot of those customers have built internal systems. Yeah. And those internal systems, usually for a period of time, are amazing. And like, they're getting awards, they're up on stage talking about how great it is, and it's awesome. But what happens is technology changes so quickly. And usually these companies are not development, they're not software companies. Maybe they're construction, or they're financial, or they're whatever. You could be manufacturing, whatever. I mean, their core competency is, let's just say, manufacturing. Okay. And what they realize is that this software system that they built, although it was great and customized in the moment, now the market has changed underneath them. New technologies have come in, and they don't have the skills, the capabilities to keep that updating and innovating in that process. And they get aged out. And their challenge is that they come in and they're like, oh my gosh, now we've built an entire system and process around antiquated technology. And if we're going to survive, we have got to migrate this thing off. We got to have somebody else come in and help us. So I think anytime that you're building software, you've got to be really, really careful, because you can get in a cycle that's dangerous. Can you build agents to go tie in multiple agents? Yeah, I think you can. But they're usually built on top of a platform that is open and is open to working with these platforms. And that's the approach that we've tried to take at Egnyte. There are some companies that have come in and said, hey, look, what our strategy is we want you to buy our system, and we want everything in one ecosystem, because we can do everything for everybody. And at Egnyte, we said, hey, how's that going to work? Because these different models are going to be very effective in very specific areas. They're not all going to be the greatest at everything. So they're not all going to, grow and develop at the same pace at the same time. We've already seen this. You've seen OpenAI came out of the chutes. Oh my gosh, greatest thing. They're going to own everything. Now you've got that's come in, they're taking over the world. And then you've got a Gemini that's come on the scene, and they're taking a big piece of the business. But they're all different. And so, what we decided at Egnyte, we said, hey, let's focus on our core competencies. Let's focus on data security, data governance, data collaboration, that data platform. And let's go out and open our system. Let's go work with every single one of these models, where you can come and deploy any model in Egnyte. We'll focus on things like the data. We'll also work on what we've helped companies do for the last 10 years, which is understand their data. So it's metadata tagging. It's it's that contextual and that semantic layer of what's in your data, So when you're prompting your LLMs or any model, that even a model that you build, you come and deploy that in Ignite, we can deliver up data to make that model more efficient and deliver results in the data that is a lot more effective. And that, in my opinion, has been part of the reason why we're crushing it on our AI products and solutions, is because people are getting better answers. And we're not trying to say, hey, only use an only use an Ignite AI model. No, we're saying bring your own model, go create your own model, go do it with Claude, go do it with Perplexity, go do it with OpenAI, Gemini, whatever, it doesn't matter. Go do whatever it is you want to do, but let us help you govern and audit that data. Let us help bring the enrichment of what we've already got from all the metadata tagging that we have out there, the classification, all of those items. So, one, you don't have to burn as many tokens when you're going and querying that data. And two, you get much more contextual and sound answers, less hallucination in the model. Anyway, that's just, again, we believe that's a winning model. We feel like we've got a good path that's producing good results for our customers, and that's been pretty exciting.
And on a personal product for Ignite, once LLM solutions have, you told us that you've worked with machine learning for a long time.
Correct, yeah.
And 22, 23, all of the LLMs started coming out. We've got vector databases that store data differently, all these weights. How was Ignite's personal kind of transition to kind of make use of that new technology within their own product, and then at the same time try to sell it to customers and explain it to customers to help them adopt the new ways of like working? Because I know people like the comfort zone. Like, we've been doing this, it works, don't make us change anything. But it's like the world's changing, this new technology, and you want to help the customers adopt it.
So first and foremost, we've come out from a couple of different approaches. We've talked about a couple of these. One is data preparation and interrogation, and actually showing them either on their data, or especially if they're an Ignite customer, current customer, we can go in and show them the capabilities that we built. And we can, more importantly, we can show them the results that we're getting when we combine these models with Ignite, and how Ignite approaches the overall problem of getting the best answers, working with the best models for specific industries, for specific problems that you're trying to solve. Like that's helpful. That's number one. The second thing that we're doing is what we call rapid prototyping. That's not a new term, but we can go in quickly and solve a piece of the problem right out of the gate. So we don't come in and it's like, hey, if you want to go with an Ignite AI solution, in 12 months, we're going to deliver X. We don't even like to talk that way. What we'd like to do is come in and say, okay, what are the issues that you're dealing with today? And what are the steps that would drive efficiency for you quickly? So we'll come in and take a problem, we'll break it down, and we'll go deliver a solution sometimes in the same day. It might be 2 or 3 days later. And we're not even trying to do that work. We're like, what we're really trying to do is say, here's the art of the possible for your team members to go do this work. We're not heavy into professional services. I mean, less than 2% of our revenue comes from professional services. We're more focused on how do we sit down with your teams and show them what's possible, and then get them using Ignite solutions. So you're not bringing in a consulting firm that is going to be ongoing into perpetuity, looking at different things, but you can actually go deliver results, same day, or within a week, whatever. And as they get more complex, it could be a month out there, but they're getting wins really quickly. And we help them with the first couple of those, and then we sit down and kind of frame out what they're trying to do, kind of help them with the roadmap, and then they're off to the races. And that is what's kind of driving and perpetuating the growth there for us personally. And they can see it. And again, I would just say the most important thing that I've learned is that if you want to go drive success, and this is any AI company that's out there today, you've got to deliver results within days. Do not focus on, hey, we're going to go deliver something in months or years. It's too far out there. Go show them what you can deliver today, and then build off of that. It's awesome. And they get excited. And there's nothing more powerful than an excited customer when people can see, oh my gosh, this is going to change. This is going to change my life. It's going to change the world. It's going to change the productivity in our business. We're going to compete better. So they dive in and they work with you. And those are the best customers. The best customers are the ones that you're collaborating back and forth. And, hey, we this is what we accomplished. We did this. This looks awesome. What do you think about it? What would be our next step? Okay, here's what we would do. And, we can also give some context. Some of our customers are really open on what they've done with Egnyte, not only with Egnyte, but any AI solution. And they're like, yeah, go ahead and share it with people. And when they do, we share that. Sometimes we bring them in. We bring customers together to go talk about where they've had success and how that might apply to someone else's business. It's been a fun thing to watch.
And when we talk about different departments and the ripeness at the current day and age of like using AI to boost a department's results, what departments would you say? Like, I know you're heavily sales focused because you've been doing that for a long time, and that's an important kind of part of any company's work. I don't know, there are solutions out there like Udly that helps you, create your pitch better. How have you noticed that the sales department is getting boosted with the AI and the current tools?
Yeah. So look, there's a lot of AI initiatives that we built specifically inside Egnyte on the sales side. Now we use a lot of different tools out there. Like, we use Outreach, we use Gong, we use Notebook LM, we use Salesforce, there's a whole complement of different products and solutions that we have out there. And we use a lot of the AI features in each of those independent products sometimes. But what we're finding is sometimes bringing all that data together in conjunction with the data that we have in Egnyte, and we're getting unbelievable solutions, or unbelievable results, I should say. So let me just take like deal acceleration, and we'll pull in a lot of the data that we have from Gong, from Outreach, what communications have gone out there. We'll look at what stage is the opportunity at, and then we'll go in and look and say, hey, have we covered all of our bases here? Is this at the right stage? Do we have a meeting set on the books in the next 3 days with this customer? If not, did they try to get that on there? We'll start looking at the transcripts, and it will help us on the negotiation side. Let's go back through all the transcripts of all the calls that we've had, all the email correspondence. What has come up? What have been some of the key areas of focus for them? We can quickly identify those, and we can build an actual, it's helpful. It's also helping us right now on kind of evidence-based management and consulting. So it will list out a string of items that we should be helping with our managers and with the reps in terms of, what's going right, where can they optimize, what do they need to skill up on, how have they done from, message delivery? Are they including the key elements of the Egnyte value proposition? Are they doing the right discovery questions? Are they capturing that information in the right way? There's a lot going on there. We have another one that we look at that's been a game changer for us. We have very, very strict rules of engagement. And at Egnyte, we have a direct sales team. We also have a partner sales team. And the partner sales team at Egnyte it's growing. It's explosive growth for our partners because they've been able to go and sell Egnyte, have the same level of success that we have. And it's been a benefit with their customers. And they're like, oh God, we're onto something here. And so we've gone from our partner channel being about 8% of our business a couple of years ago to it's over 30% now.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's growing. And part of our success there is making sure that the way that we partner and engage with our partners, that we do it in an highly integral way, that they don't feel like if we bring one of our customers and we introduce them to Egnyte and we're doing the work, we want to make sure that partner gets paid. We want to make sure that they get compensated for bringing that to us. And there can be conflicts because we've got a couple of hundred salespeople out there working hard to go introduce Egnyte to customers. And so we have a very robust rules of engagement. It's a 70-page document with examples and different things. And there's kind of two different things that we can do. One, we can go in and quickly identify a company that used to be really challenging for us to say, do we have an open opportunity with this company? Because sometimes you'd have to get the name spelled right. You'd have to do all sorts of things. So we've got a good tool that helps us go in, and it's much more effective, even with the misspelling or, whatever, different country or whatever. It does a much better job helping us identify, yes, hey, we have an active engagement here. This deal has been registered with this partner, and there's no confusion. So that's kind of one. The second thing is that we can say, all right, hey, we might have a partner or we might have a directed deal. Like this happens often where, we've worked with someone directly and then they come to us, even though we ask the question, hey, do you work with any partners, any managed service providers, any, value-added resellers, any distributors, whatever. Early on, they'll say no. And then later on, they'll come in and they'll be like, well, hey, we do work with this MSP. And so you've now got a direct rep that spent 6 months or 3 months or 2 months or whatever, working with a customer, and now it needs to get picked up and moved over to an MSP. And we're like, hey, look, and sometimes it can go the other way. Sometimes an MSP is working with somebody and they're like, maybe they want to switch and go to a different MSP, or they want to, something along those lines. We have to be really careful, and we have to have very, very strict protocols and rules around what this looks like, because we communicate those to our partners. We communicate to those to our sales reps. So there isn't a mismatch in terms of expectations. They know exactly how we operate. And getting to the bottom of that has been, we can now just type in, hey, this is the scenario. This is what happened. It will quickly go into this document that it will cite the rules. It will cite, this is how I would approach it. This is what the resolution should look like. And if there's a problem with it, they can go raise it up to sales operations. But it is cost. We probably spent, we're probably on version 3 or version 4 of this thing, but we probably spent maybe 30 or 40 hours of development on this. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing, it is saving well over 100 hours of executive leadership, not executive, management time going through this, and probably way more than 1,000 hours for reps trying to understand what the answers are. And it's just, it continues to get better and better and better. That's one. We have another one on the product side, where you can go ask any product capability question that you might have needed a solution engineer, but you can ask it. We can give all that information just quickly. We still bring in solution engineers to kind of piece all this stuff together, but sometimes a sales rep might have a question that they need a quick answer to, and we can get it with confidence with these solutions. That's just a couple of areas that we've been successful. So I don't know. Hopefully that's the area you wanted me to go down there, but
no, that was perfect. That was perfect. And as one of the questions, let's imagine there are other C-level executives in the companies right now with a lot of pressure from shareholders, other executives to deliver value on AI. And they see a lot of overpromise, under-delivery, trying to kind of find the balance between all of that. How would you suggest, maybe help them kind of find that silver lining?
So there's a couple of things I would do. First and foremost, just on a personal basis, what action can they take immediately themselves? Like if I were them, and I am an executive, so I'll say maybe anyway, the one thing I did is I got a personal cloud account. Actually I have a personal Gemini cloud and OpenAI account. I've done a lot of work on my personal stuff, my personal email, my personal calendar, my personal to-do list. I own some properties and different things, and some family LLCs and different things. And just like that has been a hairball, because I'm so busy in my day job that it's really hard to go do my personal life, and when I'm done with work, I want to go hang out with my family. I don't want to go right back to doing more work. So getting a cloud account and going in and creating my own MCP server and figuring out what model to use to build what task or what agent I'm trying to do, it's been a great journey for me. So, and it's funny, I've learned a couple of things too. So, I was on Opus 4.7. I kept getting a timeout where, I ran out of credits. You need to wait 4 hours or wait until tomorrow. I'm like, this is Stan Hansen. I wouldn't say the most technologically sound guy on the planet, but I'm like, yeah, how could I be burning through this stuff? Anyway, so just simple things like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be using Opus 4.7. Maybe I should be using Opus 4.6, or maybe I should be using Sonnet, or, something else. So, just asking those questions like, hey, this is the problem I'm trying to solve. Which model would be best to optimize on? Okay. Brings you back an answer. Okay. Hey, I want to build this connection into this set of data that I have for, a couple of properties I have. Okay. Build that. You're getting this error. Okay. Hey, I just got this error. How do I fix this? Oh, let me tell you how you fix this. Here's what you do. In fact, you want me to do that for you? Okay. Yes. So the reason why I'm kind of giving this high level experience is that I've gone down this journey and I've probably spent, I don't know, 400 or 500 hours now, back and forth with these models, building stuff for my personal self and some of the family things that my kids think I don't know whether they think I'm funny or if they think I'm whatever, but how we engage with some of these tools, because I'm trying to get them into it and have some fun with it. But you start to learn the capabilities. And what that does for you as an executive is now you can actually have a seat at the table and you can talk to your developers about what's possible, what you've experienced, and what we should be looking at inside the company. Hey, I've had these issues. Have we solved these? What does this look like? And it will accelerate your company's journey if you have a basic understanding of these tools, how they work and how they apply to your life, because those lessons are applicable in multiple different areas.
Yeah.
You just need to connect the dots between this is how these tools work. These are the results they can produce. This is the potential they have. You know what? We have an accounting department that, we could apply that same thing. I now can capture all these expenses from email and from text messages and different things. And now it puts it into a QuickBook ready file. So it just uploads. So I don't even do that. I don't have to go to anybody. I don't have to upload any. This is on my personal stuff. I don't have to do any of that stuff. It just comes in, or I just click the email. It picks it up in my, puts it in a format that's readable by QuickBooks, and then it will upload it into my QuickBooks piece. And it's cool. And it's like, okay, how could we apply that in the company? Or all of the key elements of emails that are coming in and action items. That's another one. So I now have twice a day on my personal email. It will go out and harvest, the emails that have come in. It will categorize them. Hey, you need to respond to these. These are meetings you have. This is a personal. You got a birthday coming up. Make sure you got that. It's helping me organize my life in a better way. And it's also helping me understand what are the options, or, how can we do that with Egnyte solutions? How can we leverage these tools at Egnyte? How do we leverage the Egnyte infrastructure to even make them more powerful? And that's one thing that I have is, at Egnyte, everybody gets an Egnyte for Life account. And there's a Claude connector for your Egnyte Life account. So I can go in and I'm using Egnyte with Claude, and I'm seeing that interaction, how our customers would be using these solutions. It's awesome. So now I'm getting the power of Egnyte. I'm getting the power of Claude. I'm seeing it in actual. I'm solving my own problems. And it opens up a different level of discussions with customers. That's one thing I would do. And the second thing I would do is, if you're an executive, you've got to get that power into the hands of your employees. So you've got to figure out, if you've got AI solutions, figure out how to get your AI solutions in the hands of your employees so they can start using them in conjunction with all of these other models to go produce results. And it will get you to driving value much quicker for your customers, for yourself. And ultimately, in my case, it's one and the same. I'm an Egnyte customer for my personal. And so now I'm seeing, what is the value I can derive from these combined solutions with Egnyte? Where does Egnyte play? Where does it add the value? How does it help me? It's on a simpler, smaller scale, but it's helping me identify the concepts so we can apply them for our customers.
I'm loving that. Like, it's almost like practice what you preach. Get your feet wet in whatever you're working at. And I guess like that rapid prototyping, experimentation, it gives you a real voice at the table when somebody's talking about these features. You've done that. You've tried it on a smaller scale, but still, the technology, the wiring inside the brain, how things work is going to be similar.
Just on that, we had a customer come to us, and at Egnyte, we work a lot in the construction industry. And we had a customer come to us and say, hey, look, we have this capability where if you're going out and taking pictures on your cell phone or mobile device, we'll geofence it, and then it uploads those pictures into a specific file. So it knows what project you're working on, and it kind of helps with that. And one of our customers came to us and said, hey, guy, what would be super cool is if when you took those images, you could extract key pieces of metadata tags. You could tag those photos quickly, and because they'd be more valuable. Because what I have to do is I have to go in and say, okay, hey, I'm out on a construction. So first of all, I take a picture, construction site. Okay, we'll tag it as a construction site. The second thing is it had a bulldozer out in front. Okay, bulldozer. Or it's a concrete structure. Okay, concrete structure. Or it had safety tape up around something. Okay, or whatever. And they came to us and like, look, we're tagging like 50 things. And it's like, okay, in these photos, let's go. That's something that we can do quickly. So if you want tags on those images, let's bring those images in. Same thing, you go take pictures, puts them in the project folder. And at the same time, let's go make sure that we're loading up, simple metadata tags on the areas that are key to you. That's something we were able to develop in like 2 days. And, they've got a list of things and, now they're off to the races getting some of the key pieces. Now we're going into V2, V3, which are going to be more complex. Okay, well, now we want to know, we want to know 1,000 different things in the photo. That gets more challenging. So, but at least we've proven the concept here on, the 30 or 40 things that they want. And now we're working into, okay, how do we make that and capture more subtleties in these images? And that's an example of the rapid prototyping that, we've done from an image base. Same thing on, maybe it's document extraction. We have a lot of financial services customers. Mm-hmm. And, there are very key elements in these documents and getting some of the contextual pieces out of the summary of the document, all that. But even more importantly, what are the key pieces of information that you can key off of later? So we can go build these agents, bring them into Egnyte. They can go extract this data really quickly, really effectively. We can test it, make sure that it's performing at the right level. And then it's like, okay, well, let's do V2, V3, V4, V5. And it just starts. So you can take a task that someone is spending a lot of time doing, and then you can look at the next task. Okay, well, yeah, we got that solved. That's great. Now let's move to the next one. And you go solve for that and the next one. And then you build these agents to come work together. It's going to be amazing.
Almost like creating new startups within the company. You look at all these problems and then you solve them with separate pieces of technology that kind of interacts and integrates with the main piece.
Every day there is a startup company starting within a company because you're actually building something. You're building a piece of software to go do something. You're building an agent. And every day, and every once in a while you hook into something that's really powerful. And you're like, whoa, hey, we're onto something here. There's going to be I didn't mean to cut you off. I could go on and on that, but we are seeing innovation at a completely different level in Egnyte, in our customers' business. And I think that's because the art of the possible is now possible.
And I think we'll still be able to leave some for the follow-up episodes coming in the future. Because with technology, it's developing so much that like the episodes we've recorded half a year ago, everything's changed so much. So there is just so much new context and things that have been tried out and tested to talk about. And I think that's something that we might do with you, Stan, as well. I want to thank you so much for your time and for all of the knowledge that you've shared with us today. This has really been an exciting and amazing episode, which is going to be extremely helpful, I think, to a lot of people out there trying to navigate their way into like what's the art of the possible and how to stay grounded, keep your integrity, and play for the long run when using all of this technology. So I want to say thank you from myself and from all of our listeners who get to listen to the episode. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Appreciate. We were fortunate. We had a chance to have a couple of conversations. Super insightful for me. I've learned from you, so I just want to say thanks. I actually am now a follower. Loving this thing. It's been awesome, and you've had multiple great guests out here. I'll be surprised if I make the cut for a comeback because you've got some good people out there that have been on there, but love to come back anytime. So thanks so much.
I'm sure you'll do. Thank you so much. I'm pretty sure this season is going to be even more exciting because it like really dives deep into the trenches.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.